Greetings, YouTubers. So today I thought I'd do something a little more instructional in content. As I put this thing together, I was here working on this particular support, and I thought, hey, you know what? How to get my camera in and get some shots of this. So let me tell you what I've done so far. So this is one of the pieces that go, across the shelves this direction as a support. My shelves are 14 inches deep and spaced roughly 20 inches apart. I mean, there's some variability in there for reasons that I can get into later, but what I've done so far, this is going to go up against here and on the floor. And if you'll notice, there's a bolt here. It's countersunk up inside so that this surface will be flat, so that I can now put a support here. The problem is that I can't put a screw directly into that bolt, so I've got to go off at kind of an angle. So I've pilot drilled through this wood. This is an 1/8 inch drill, and you can see where it's piloted just below and to the left of where I've put that bolt. And that's to accommodate these wood screws. This is what I'm going to use to actually attach this piece of wood to this cross piece here. And then you can see I've got some Gorilla Glue out. This is different. This is more akin to standard wood glue. I think it's still pretty strong stuff. The reasons that I used the other stuff, here, let me get that. The other stuff, that's this. And you can see it's kind of a brown in color. It's kind of like, I don't know if you're old enough to remember mucilage. I don't think that's what it is. I'm pretty sure that's not what it is, but this stuff expands and it's waterproof. So I've been using this stuff outside as much as I can, and in places where I've got like big gaps in the wood. Let's say I couldn't get closer than that, then I'd use the expanding glue to kind of fill that in. This stuff here is standard, more like a standard kind of an Elmer's variety wood glue. It's not waterproof, so that's being used inside, and I'm gluing and screwing just about every joint. The only ones that I've not glued are these that are anchored against steel posts. There's a steel post behind this piece of wood here, and each one of these self-tapping bolts goes into a piece of steel vertical that was built into the trailer when I bought it. So, and they're very sturdy. One of the goals that I had with putting these sleeping pods on the outside is that there's going to be a fair amount of weight on those pods, and I just wanted it to be sturdy. I didn't want to have to be sleeping in the middle of the night and have my sleeping pod fall on the ground. So in putting all of this structure together, I wanted it to be firm, so everything has been glued and screwed, and I mean, you can shake this thing and it shakes the whole trailer. I mean, this thing does not move. I've been using this as a means of pulling myself up into the trailer for a week now, and it's not even budged. So back to this here. So I've drilled this at an angle, and then I put in a 1/4 inch drill, and I'm about to, well, actually I think I've already done a countersink in that, so that this head here will be below the surface when I'm done and won't create a lift here. So when I put my shelf on, it'll be flat. And I'll put some glue in here, and then I'll screw this down, and then I'll show it to you in just a second. Okay, so I've changed the bit, so now I've got a screw bit on there. I've got a square here, and I'll go ahead and put this up, and there's glue on the end of it now. I'll put this up against my, I don't know what to call that, piece of wood against the floor. Checking this for square, looks good, and then I'll go ahead and screw this in. Okay, so I've made sure that I'm square and up against the wall there, and then I'll pilot drill right through here. So now I've changed the bit from the 1/8 to the 1/4, and I'm going to drill just through the support here. I don't want to go through the floor because I want to leave the meat of the wood, if I can call it that, to hold on to these threads on my lag bolt. Okay, so I've drilled through that, through this piece of wood, not through the floor, with a 1/4 inch, and now I'm going to countersink that so that the head of this lag bolt will be below the surface of this, so when I put the shelf material on top, it'll sit nice and flat. Okay, so that's the countersink, and now this bolt will fit in that hole, and I can run it down with a little drill-driven socket here, and drive that into the floor. Now, you have to be careful to get these wood chips out from underneath the wood here, so I've kind of lifted this up a little bit and blown out to make sure there's no chips underneath, so when I bolt this to the floor, it'll sit flat. Okay, so I've driven that down into the floor, and you can see that this is below the surface. I've got a nice flat space. This screw is down underneath the surface of the wood. This lag bolt is down underneath the surface of the wood. I'm still square. It's important to kind of hang on to this piece of wood when you're doing the drilling and bolting and stuff, because it wants to move. So if you hold on to it, it'll keep it down in place. And this sucker's down. It's not going to go anywhere. So this same process that I just showed you here, as I'm putting in this floor piece, has been reiterated just about everywhere. So everything's been countersunk, and in places where I don't want to attach to the trailer, I've not glued, but every place else, these are all glued and screwed, all of it. And it makes for a really strong, in fact the glue is probably stronger than the screws. My one concern, and I don't have enough experience to know, is as I'm going down the road, you know, this trailer is going to flex as I'm going over bumps and roads and stuff, and these joints are so stiff and tight. I'm actually worried about them cracking because they aren't going to flex. So, you know, and I can't know what that's going to look like until I actually get out there and see it. Maybe some of you guys that have done this before have some experience and can speak into that. But so that's just something that I think about going forward. But at the end of the day, the goal was to make this contribute to the overall strength of the trailer, so that the sleeping pod that's on the other side of that wall, with my fat old body on top of it, is not going to fall to the ground. I just wanted this extra strength, and it is strong. I mean, it is solid. So that goal's been achieved. I hope I haven't made it too solid. So, all right. So that's all the instructional stuff I'm going to do today. I got work to do. All right. So I'll see you later. Bye. Okay. So closing up the update for today. So this is the stuff that I showed you earlier on the tutorial, where I was drilling and countersinking these screws to toenail them into the board behind it, the lag bolt going through the floor and into the subfloor below, and then I've also glued and screwed with the same processes. Pilot drilling and then countersinking the holes so the screws will go flush. These screws are underneath this wood, so when the plywood goes over it, it'll sit flat. And so this is what I got done today. It takes a little bit longer, I have to say, doing the whole gluing and screwing thing, and because the trailer is not square. Fancy that. And you know, a lot of my boards, these 2x2s, the one thing about them is, and it's been rainy up here, so a lot of these boards are kind of twisted a little bit. So I'm kind of pulling some of them into place with, you know, the screwing when I do that. But all of that to say is that, you know, some of this is not as square as I would like it to be if I were doing something a lot more precision. But so that's kind of the progress for today. I'm looking this way. So this is you know, the aisle space between the two cabinets, and I think I've told you that's going to be, once the doors are on, that'll be about 40 inches wide, maybe a little wider than that. And I've kind of danced around why it is that I wanted that number, but I've dropped hints. There's been a couple of things on some drawings if you go back and look at some of the videos, but there's another hint right there. And the reason that I'm doing that is because I may not always be able to deploy the sleeping pods. So, I mean, it'd be nice if I could just have all kinds of time to set up. And here, let me adjust my exposure here a little bit, you guys, before I start yakking at you. Am I in focus? Wow, what are the odds? Blow some dust off of that lens there. So, man, I'm getting scruffy looking. Nerf herder. Scruffy looking Nerf herder. All the sci-fi fans will know what a Nerf herder is. So, so I'm not always going to be able to just, you know, set up camp. You know, there's going to be some nights when I'm going to want to just like pull into a campground or something and spend one night and then get up and go. And, you know, deploying the pods is not something that I'm going to want to do in that scenario. So what I've done is I've created enough space between the cabinets to put in a twin-size bed. Twin-size beds are 39 by 75 inches. So these aisles are 40 inches wide. I'm going to have some support mechanism of some sort, as yet to be fully defined, to hold them up with a span of probably half-inch plywood or something in between the supports to put a mattress on. You know, it won't afford Rachel and I the same level of privacy that we would like for the most part, but you know, for an emergency, get it done, go to bed, get some sleep, get up and drive again in the morning kind of scenario, I think it'll be great, it'll be handy. And ultimately, it could make this trailer, it could give it the ability to sleep 4 people. You know, I don't think I'd ever do that. I don't think I could find 2 other people on the planet that like me enough. But it would have that possibility. But anyway, so cat's out of the bag. That's the plan. The aisle space is deliberately measured to accommodate a twin-size mattress and give us a quick emergency place to sleep. And it'll probably be put together that way whenever we break camp. So, you know, whenever our 14 days up at whatever place that we camp at, or whatever the camping limit is, you know, we'll put the beds inside here, and you know, I'll have some more storage underneath the beds. So, I mean, it's a win-win thing all the way around, I think. It will add a little bit more weight. The plywood sheets, half-inch plywood sheets, you know, I would say they probably weigh about 20-25 pounds a piece, if that. So I'll probably add about 50 more pounds, putting 2 extra pieces of plywood in here. That was actually the reason why I wanted that roof rack, was to have more storage to put those things. But I'm leaning more and more towards either A, I don't need it, it'll all fit in here, either under the beds or you know, tilted up against the wall somehow. I think it'll fit. Or I can build something on the ramp in the back, and if I'm smart about it, I can make it deep enough where whenever the ramp is flat, that storage area will be wide enough to offset us off the ground flat level. So anyway, those are my current thoughts. The update is done, the little tutorial thing this morning. You know, let me know what you think about that. You know, I've been asked to give a little bit more information that way for some clarity, and so, you know, I'm happy to accommodate. You know, for me, you know, another great part of this process, besides you know, me having this window to my family and friends and other resources, is you know, being able to encourage, inspire, teach. If there's other folks out there that I know are kind of at the place that I was, 4 months ago, and if I can steer you away from trouble, if I can give you enough courage to make the leap into something that you've been wanting to do, if I can give you information about how I'm doing stuff and it's useful, meaningful, I'm gonna go on record as saying I'm not a pro at this. I mean, I've been learning it as I go for the most part. I've got a pretty varied background, so I'm not a complete idiot, but well, maybe maybe I am. But I know some stuff, but carpentry, this is new territory for me. Most of the stuff that I've worked with has been metal, so I'm learning as I go too. I've stubbed my toes. I've learned some things in the process. Thank goodness for my dad. He's a master cabinet maker. He kind of cringes when he comes out here because I'm not building to the precise standards that he would. I mean, literally, this dude gets out the micrometers and he makes stuff fit. And it looks really good. I mean, you've seen a little bit of the inside of his house. He's done all that. All that work is his work. The cabin next door, he's completely rebuilt from the ground up and done all of the cabinetry and doors and windows and everything in it. So he's good to have around. He's a good resource, a good piece of information, a good source of information for me to learn this process as I go. And I'm happy to pass on the things that I'm learning on this journey. And if they help you, then that's fantastic, and that makes it even better for me. It's not just about the video log, and it's not just about me anymore. I'm being forced to share. All right, guys. Well, I think this is probably going to be the longest video that I've ever done. I think I've probably broken 12 minutes twice on this, and so I don't know what it'll add up to, but I'm sure it's going to be a long one. So, without making it any longer than necessary. Stay tuned. Thanks for your comments. Be sure to ask questions if you have them. Subscribe, and if you want to follow this utter nonsense in front of me. And, we'll see you again tomorrow. Later.